Welcome to the Cloak and Dagger podcast. On this podcast, we'll be talking about freeform show Cloak and Dagger. Here are your hosts, Kat and Butch.
To the fifth episode of the Cloak and Dagger podcast. My name is Kat, and I am here with my co-host Butch.
Hey everyone, welcome. We had a good episode this week.
Yeah, so this wasn't our fifth episode. We had a couple of episodes beforehand, but this is the fifth episode of the show that we will be recapping today, and the show was called Princeton Offense. So what were your overall thoughts on this show, Butch? We're halfway through the season now.
Oh my god, is it? Oh my god, you're right.
Yeah, I know,
halfway through. That was really fast. Yeah, with this episode, it was very satisfying, and there have been two big, or like the two main criticisms for the show so far have been that the pace has been a little bit slow, and maybe some of the stuff has been a little bit confusing. And last week we got some satisfaction from getting some answers to how their powers work, and Tyrone and Tandy finally met. And then this week we're addressing the slow pace a little bit by having this one had a lot more plot. We're done with getting to know the characters, and now we're moving the story forward with Roxanne and the conspiracy with Detective Connor. So for me, this episode felt like almost like a breath of fresh air, because we got things moving along, everything set up, and now we can sort of watch the show proceed at its own pace. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we touched on their powers and their relationship, but really the main focus of this episode was moving the plot forward. And I think that at this point in episode 5, especially since there's only 10 episodes in the season, if we get picked up for a second season, hopefully, and that's looking promising, especially since the cast is going to be at San Diego Comic-Con for a panel. But if we get picked up for a second season, hopefully that'll be more episodes per season. Hopefully that'll be 20 episodes a season. And then we can explore we'll have time really to explore the characters more. But I think this was the perfect time for Cloak and Dagger to really say, okay, this is our plot. Besides here's who our characters are and really introducing them to us, now we have plot.
Yeah.
We really got a deeper look into Roxanne, so that was really cool. So before we go into our recap and review of episode 5, we're going to pause here for a word from one of our sister podcasts.
Hey there, Cloak and Dagger fans. We are Abel, Andrew, and Adam from the Shadowhunters podcast.
If you're a fan of Shadowhunters, come and discuss the show with us every week. And during the hiatus, listen to our original content, including episode rankings, rip it or ship it, and character best and worst moments.
And if you haven't heard of Malik, you are truly not living your best life.
Check us out everywhere where podcasts are located. And thank you guys for listening. Enjoy your show.
Okay, we're back. Let's go ahead and dive right into this episode. So one of the first scenes we're seeing is we're with Tandy, and she's in the church, and she's got files all around her. So these are all the files that she took from poor Greg in his office. So they really didn't do a very good job of burning the office and the files, because Tandy had a lot of paperwork there for her to look through. But she's watching an ad, and it reminded me of back when the big BP oil spill happened, and they did these ads that they aired on TV where executives and people from BP were cleaning up after the oil spill. So that it reminded me exactly of that, the ad that she was watching on her phone. So that was a good scene to see. She had all of that research laid out around her. I didn't know, and I don't know if you know, but did she lay that out in some kind of pattern that would make a symbol or some kind of sense to anybody? Because they panned out to show how much it was.
Yeah, I thought it was something, I don't know, I was looking for a pattern, but as far as I know, just by going through with the episode, we just find out it's 3 branches, and it's those 3, what do you call them, those 3 Roxanne executives. And you just see that she leaves holes because she's trying to, holes on the floor, trying to identify who these people are, and they branch they converge towards another hole, which we'll find out who that is later on. So I think that's pretty much all it is. It's just she's, I guess at this point we know more than she does, so she's coming in with a lot of junk and she's just trying to organize. And she's actually, they're showing that she's pretty smart here because she's figured out, I need to get to these 3 people at the very least.
Yeah. So she's looking through her files, and then we pan over to another scene with Detective O'Reilly, and she's having a rather intimate moment in a police car with one of her colleagues, and she gets a call that she needs to come into the station. So she goes in the station, and she's meeting with Ty, and they're kind of having that cover of, my bike got stolen, but he obviously told her at this point all about Detective Connors and Billy and what happened, what he saw happen. And, he's like, we need to do something about this. And she's explaining to him that basically vice cops are all protected, that there's nothing you can really do about, you can't really say anything bad about a vice cop because they basically live double lives. So they have their secret vice cop life and then they have their regular life. So Ty says, okay, if we can't really take him down in any way, maybe we can really dig some information. So then he explained to her about, and not so much how it happened, but that he saw him kind of like dealing coke, and that was when Ty ended up in his trunk with all the coke and then meeting with the dealer. So he kind of like planted the seed there for Detective O'Reilly to kind of think, there's probably something more going on here, because I think she understands that Connors is not, a good cop, that he is a dirty cop. And I think she believes Ty, even though she kind of said that maybe she doesn't. What do you think?
Yeah, well, just a quick note on the on our first scene of Detective O'Reilly. That was a surprise for, again, like, we've been dealing with heavy themes here, but on the show, but it's like pretty explicit, like, these characters are, I don't know if that's the same detective who, the same officer that she was doing it with, if it's the same guy who gave her like cup of coffee with his phone number on it, and that guy, Officer Fuchs or whatever his name is. Again, it's really interesting, these tidbits they're showing us about Detective O'Reilly. Like, number one, we know she's competent, and because she doesn't get a lot of screen time, obviously, as much as Tyrone and Tandy. So it's interesting what they choose to show us, and here they're showing us, like, I don't know, I got the vibe that they're trying to depict her as, like, I don't know, like, not, I don't know how to say this, like, not necessarily, like, not a feminine character, but like she's in charge, like the way they shot that scene. Kind of like, sort of like a soft role gender reversal kind of thing going on.
She's like a strong female character, kind of like how Tandy is, but she has the law on her side. Right,
exactly. And so going forward to her scene with Tyrone, there was a quick callback to, they showed Tyrone's like anxiousness being in the precinct. He was like looking around, and again with the sounds and the commotion, and you can tell he's a little nervous here. And just we get them plotting towards each other. And she said something weird. Did I catch this right? Like, so Tandy tipped off Tyrone about who Detective O'Reilly is, and then Tyrone said something like, "I'm not sure if I can trust you," and then Detective O'Reilly said, "You can't?" Is that what she said?
Yeah, she said
something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. Like, their conversation was weird to me, because he was kind of like saying, "If Tandy trusts you, I'll trust you, and you'll believe me because you believed her," and she's like, "No." So I don't know. That conversation was a little confusing to me, but then I still think that she just didn't want to give all of her cards away, maybe.
True. And I guess, she definitely told him to cut it out with trying to figure it out on his own, and told him just be a kid, which is actually a good lead into what he does for the rest of the episode. He's just trying to be a normal, member of the basketball team.
Yeah, and then that takes us into the next scene where we do see him going to be a normal kid. So he's at school, and he's the school's all decorated because they're having a pep rally because the basketball team is in the final game. So they're in the final championship game, and it's do or die in this game. So everything's all decorated up for that, and his locker got decorated, and that scene cracked me up when he's looking at his locker and he says, "You didn't have to do this," and he turns and he thought it was Evita, but it was Tandy. He was just like, "Whoa!"
Amazing.
And it just makes you wonder.
Yeah, and I think
like when's the last time?
Yeah, the whole audience was like, yeah, exactly, and and I think the way you felt was like how everyone felt like, ooh, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah. And right. I always pay attention to what she's wearing. So, like, in the church, she was, like, all in white and, like, a light gray color. So she had her dagger colors on. But when she went to the school, she was dressed in black. So and then she stayed in black for a little bit more through the episode until she was back in the church. And then she changed back to white. So I don't know if that means anything, but I like to pay attention to what she's wearing. But she just makes me laugh. Like, she can go anywhere. she just gets into the school, and I haven't been in a school in a long time, admittedly. But the last time I had to go into a school, it wasn't like you can just walk in there. Like somebody's stopping you and IDing you and making sure it's okay for you to be there. And Tandy just shows up wherever she wants to. It's totally fine.
That's whatever she wants.
Yeah, exactly. So she kind of grabs Ty and is like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm not really here to see you. I really kind of just need to borrow your computer." So he takes her to the computer lab, and they're talking, and she's telling him as she's looking up information on Roxanne on the computer that she learned how to control her powers. And that's when we really get that answer, what we were talking about last week. Was she trying to kill herself, or was she really trying to see what she could do with her powers? And now we know that she was pushing herself to see how far her powers can go, and in that moment she was able to control her powers. So now we know for a fact that she has control over her dagger power and control. She understands how her seeing people's hope power works. So she's in a good spot to move forward now. We've got that answer from Tandy.
You're right, and she kind of shows off. She just again going to what we're saying about her not giving a crap about anything. She just whips out the dagger.
Yeah.
And Tyrone's like, "Oh, don't do that over here." And again, I just really love the way they do the dagger, the effect.
It's cool.
And I think what I like about it is when it disappears, there's no sound. Like it's, I don't know, it feels like a more, and even Cloak's power, I think, if I'm not mistaken, when he uses his teleportation power, there's no, the producers didn't feel the need to have a sound effect, which is what normally I think most people would try to do with something like that. So I don't know, it just feels more mature. I think that like the vibe I get, like it just goes and it's gone. And
I agree.
I think that's
more of a visual.
Realistic.
So they use that visual presence where, like, when you see, and usually they're panning down to Tandy holding the dagger, and the first thing you see is that bright white light before you actually get to the dagger, so it's all visual. And then same with Ty, you see that dark force energy around him before he actually teleports. So you get that visual instead of the sound effects, and I agree, that's definitely a much more mature way. It doesn't put that cartoony fake sound effect aspect in it. I do like that a lot.
Exactly. Right.
So Tandy is, kind of telling Ty, I nearly had to die to learn how to control my powers. So she's funny when she gives him advice, because she makes me laugh. She's like, you should probably just try the same thing, put yourself in a near-death experience to learn how to control your powers. It's all good. But she says to him, the world has stolen from me my whole life, and maybe I have this thing so I can steal some of it back. And that, to me, when she said that, she is fully in control and understanding of the direction she wants to go, and she's committed to finding out more about Roxanne. Even though she saw what happened to Greg and she knows that this is something dangerous, she's committed at this point. So she ends up getting that list of like the higher level Roxanne employees, and then they kind of break apart there. Ty still has to go to his pep rally thing, and that's when we go to the scene where the basketball players are lining up on one side of the hall and the cheerleaders are lined up on the other, and we see that Evita is a cheerleader. And he tells her, "Thanks for decorating my locker," and she says, "What are friends for?" And he's like, "What?" He was like really surprised that she just labeled them friends. Yeah. that was a good scene. And then they pan down to like the other couple. The guy gives the girl his Letterman jacket, and Ty's like, "Oh," like I really need to get on that. And Evita's kind of like, "Yeah."
Yeah, and this is weird for me. He made peace with the guy led the beat down of him. So that was I don't know. I was trying to think, would I do that? Like, they have a combo, he got really pissed off in that scene. So I'm guessing they really did a number on him, and I am not sure if I would have been like, "Oh yeah, let's one last game, let's do this." I don't know if I could have done that.
I don't know if he felt like...
Don't have that maturity.
Yeah, I don't know if he felt like he deserved what happened to him, because it was his fault that he was late for practice and they had to do all that extra practicing. And then maybe he just was like, I need to make up with this person and be on the same page with him for the sake of the game, since it's the big championship game and I don't want to like bring anything from the past into it. So, but yeah, you're right. Like, I would still be super salty about it. I definitely wouldn't like make a break to go stand next to him.
That's true. Plus his face was kind of annoying. Like, anyway.
Yeah, no, I thought that too. I was like, okay, Ty, that's some amazing maturity. Like, I was like, if that was Tandy, she definitely would handle that situation the same way. But yeah, I definitely didn't mean to skip over that. So thanks for bringing that up. So we see the basketball players, and then they're going outside to have their pep rally.
Yep.
And Tandy's kind of watching, and she's looking over like the normalcy of what's going on, and kind of like if she had a normal life, like where possibly where she could be. And she's looking at the cheerleader uniforms, and like you're thinking at first like maybe she's like, oh, like that could be me, this could be like a normal life for me. And then it's like, no, she's really just noticing that they're wearing their cheerleader uniforms, so their normal clothes are stored somewhere else. And you pan to Tandy using her dagger to break into everybody's lockers to steal their clothes.
I love that part. Like, again, she does not care about the damage that she's doing here.
And I was like, man, if you ever forgot your locker combination, like that would be such a good power to have. Be like, I'll just cut my way into this locker then.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to what she did last time. She broke into like a safe, and so she knows what she can do.
Yeah.
And yeah, just so much fun. She's having fun here, I think, or I don't know. It's kind of a breath of fresh air for her.
Yeah.
For the series. Yeah.
I'm glad, like, and you see in these scenes that like she has this new power and she has this new knowledge of her past, but it's not changing who she is. She's still Tandy. I have this weapon now that I can take whenever I want it. Let me use it to my advantage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that scene is great. When we come back, we're back in a scene with Detective O'Reilly, and she's kind of on her computer at her desk looking up Billy's case. And I couldn't read everything that she was looking there, but it did mention somebody, Agent M. So I don't know if that's who they were referring to, like that's how Detective Connors was written, as Agent M, or if they were referring to somebody else that we don't know about yet. But she's talking to the officer about kind of like the drug crime in the city and how, it's magically like gone down over the past 8 years. And they mentioned how 8 years ago was kind of when Detective Connors moved to Vice. So then you start putting that together. It's like, was he moved to Vice to protect him from the crime that he committed in killing Billy, and most likely that's what happened. That's what I got out of it. Is that what you got out of it?
Well, just quickly on Agent M, I'm not sure, 100% sure about this, but that might be an Easter egg reference to, like, I don't know, the Marvel's social media manager guy. I think that's the name of the account even. Like, the guy's name is, I believe his name's like Ryan Pinagos, maybe. Something like that. And his alias is Agent M. And he's been around for a few years now, and I don't know if that's if they thought about him, but I was like, that can't be a coincidence that they used that letter, or so that might be it. And I totally forgot what you were saying. What were you saying about
we were saying,
the conversation? Officer Loverboy and the
legit. How Detective Connors, they were talking about how kind of like the drug crime rate, like it used to be really bad in New Orleans, and she was kind of trying to get like this feel like, you know, what happened to the drug crime, and then they were saying, oh, it's kind of gone down over the last 8 years. Well, we know what's happened 8 years ago is that's when Detective Connors was moved to Vice. Was that the cover-up for him? He was moved to Vice to cover up, you know, what he did, because before he was just like a beat cop, right?
Yeah, that's what I got. Maybe that's true. Like, I would think that being under Vice would give you more anonymity and protection, because obviously those people are dealing with more sensitive types of crime than just a regular officer. That's probably it. And it's interesting, again, the perspective of Officer Loverboy, that she said, like, like whatever is happening, end result is things are better. So we're playing with a world that is, there are like shades of gray, and you don't know like which side or who's like doing good, because maybe, I don't know, maybe Detective O'Connor is that kind of character. Like he smooths things out, and he doesn't play completely within the system of the law, I think, even though he is a cop. But that's from the past few episodes, or his last interaction with Detective O'Reilly, that's his thing, that he operates like in between the lines of the law, I think.
Yeah. And Ty was trying to paint his picture as being like this, the head of like the cocaine problem in New Orleans, and you know, basically being the coke supplier. And so she's trying to kind of like dig and see if there's any truth to that. And I think that's like, that was the start of the conversation. Like, okay, I'm looking at, I'm trying to find these drug cases, but I'm not really finding too many anymore. And like, while that can be perceived as a good thing, like maybe everybody's got everything under control, in reality, does anybody really have that kind of crime under control? So she's kind of trying to figure out where to go from there. Because she knows that there's something more going on than just, oh, everything's okay now.
Yeah.
So that
something's afoot.
Yes. So that was the start of kind of like her journey into diving into who Detective Connors really is. But then we skip back to Ty, and he's at home, and this scene like really got all of my feels with Ty and his mom. But she was on the phone or on her tablet having a conversation with somebody that she works with, and she said that Roxanne is her biggest client. And did we know what she did? Was that made clear at any point what her job is?
No, this is the big confirmation. But remember, like, what was it like last? Yeah, like last episode when Ty and Evita snuck into her house, she was on the phone with someone, and they were like talking about filming commercials and looking for a scientist. And at the time, I thought that has to have something to do with Roxanne. So this is, but they were never they never spelled it out until this episode.
Yes. Okay. Good. Thanks for bringing that up. I forgot about that conversation. So she was like on the phone with a coworker, and they were talking about the charity gala that, you know, Roxanne was having to raise money for cleaning up the ocean, is what I'm guessing. And we hear Ty's mom saying, "I'm sorry, I can't come. This is my son's biggest game." And I was like, oh, she's missing like this gigantic work event to go and cheer him on at his high school basketball game. Like, what a good mom.
Yeah.
And Ty grabs a picture of Billy and two of his friends off the wall, and he kind of bumps into Mom, and they have a conversation, and she's saying how proud Billy would be of where he is, and like that was their dream, those three boys, to make the championships, and that would get them out of where they were. And it was just, then she hugged him, and it really like got all of my feels in that scene, because it's like, Ty's feeling like, I wish Billy was here to watch me, and she's telling him he is, don't worry. And it's like, oh, such a good mother-son bonding moment. But also giving us some more plot information, so it wasn't just thrown in there for nothing. We still got some plot information in that scene.
Right, and again, everybody talks about the chemistry between Aubrey and Olivia, but whenever Tyrone and his mom are in a scene, I don't know, like there's a lot of energy there.
Yeah,
like their chemistry is pretty strong too.
Aubrey and Gloria just have this great connection, and you see them on Twitter, and they like tweet at each other like, "You're amazing," and it's just cute. Like,
oh, really?
when they have those interactions, like, I love playing your mom. It's like, oh, okay, well, we love you being his
right,
mom.
and she brings up that he has a really good jumper.
Yes.
And that comes into play later on, so they're setting something up there.
And she also mentioned on the conversation that she was having with her colleague that you need a wristband to get into the gala. So I thought that I was like, oh, Tandy's going to have to, because at that point that Tandy's going to go to that gala no matter what she has to do. So they were kind of bringing up that like, this is a higher security party, you have to have a specialized wristband to get in. So then I started thinking, like, what is she going to do now? She can't just walk into this party like she seemed to be able to walk in anywhere else.
Right.
So you have this touching moment with Ty and his mom, and then Ty's about to put the picture back on the wall, and all of a sudden his Dark Force powers come around him, and he's teleported to the middle of this factory, and he's like, where the hell am I? And Ty, who still can't really control his powers, seems to just end up where he needs to be at the time he needs to be there. So at least he's not like teleporting crazy places, but he's in a factory, and then you see that the guy who comes around the corner knows him, and Ty recognizes him as Wayne, one of his brother's friends, and it was one of the guys from the picture. So they have a conversation, and they have a touching conversation about how Billy would be proud of him for being where he is and being in the championship game, and they kind of talked about that. And he went as far to talk about how if Billy was still alive, he would want to have Billy working for him. And, looking back at this conversation compared to what we know now from the end of the episode, I don't know. I mean, I feel like he's being genuine, what he's saying, but at the same time... Yeah. And
again, like shades of gray with characters. Like, you don't quite know if he's 100% evil or 100% good.
Like, I feel like he really did value Billy as a friend. Like, that was a good friend, and he knows how much Ty meant to Billy, and he really does want him to succeed. And yet, we'll talk about this later, but what you find out later in the episode, like, really sours you to his character.
Absolutely. And the thing with... I don't know anything about watches. I don't wear watches or anything, but the way they shot it, like, that's an expensive watch, right? And because Ty noticed it.
Yeah.
So at this point, I thought, my theory at this point was somebody paid him off. So then that's why. But apparently that's not it. But he's doing well for himself.
I didn't even go there. I guess because Ty's mom had said to him when they were looking at that picture, she said, oh, one of your brother's friends is doing really well for himself. So I kind of thought, like, when Ty noticed that watch and that it was an expensive watch, that maybe he just assumed that, he was just really having a good luck in business. And then he kind of went into that explanation, like, oh, after the hurricane, I was refurbishing homes, and now I have all this business, and it's great. So I guess I didn't really assume anything. But then I guess in this show, you can't really take anybody for face value, you know?
True.
We couldn't take Greg for face value. We couldn't take Liam for face value. So why are we taking Wayne now at face value?
Don't remind me about Greg.
Oh, I'm sorry. And, you know, just to say about Greg, we didn't really get closure with him because we didn't get to go back to Melissa in this episode to, like, make sure she's okay.
I know, I was waiting for that.
About her.
Yeah.
And in my head, that was a deleted scene, and Tandy really did comfort her mom in some way. But I want to see that. And maybe it'll happen next week, I don't know. Maybe next week we'll get some Father Delgado scenes. But now I'm going off on it.
Oh my god. Feel free.
Yes. So we have that conversation, and Wayne says to Billy, you know, you can't change what was, you can only move forward. So then Ty's like all empowered. Yes, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to do what I need to do. We pan back to Tandy, and she's back in the church, and she's looking up the Roxanne parody gala that's on her phone, and she knows that, you know, this is where she needs to go. So then we go to this awesome scene where we see how Tandy put the clothes that she stole to good use. And she's in this agency, and what I gathered that this agency was one of those places where, like, if you're like Instagram famous or Facebook famous or whatever, and you have a whole bunch of followers, like, they will pay you to go places to do like promotions on your social media for whatever event you're at.
Oh,
so that's what I got.
Okay.
At first, I thought she was going to an escort service to try to, like, get a date with one of the Roxanne guys, but I think that's more of what it was. Definitely, like, she had to prove her social media presence. And I was laughing. I'm like, she made this fake social media account with all these pictures on it, and she has all these followers, and I'm, like, hanging out on my phone, like, trying to switch between Twitter accounts properly so I'm not tweeting under the wrong alias, and Tandy can do this in less than a day, so... She's obviously a professional at what she's doing here. But she basically gets hired by this company to go to the Roxanne Gala as a promotional thing. So that's what I understood out of that whole scene. But she was fantastic. Like, Olivia's such a good actress. And, you know, when she's, like, looking at the other girls and she's kind of like, you know, I got this. She's kind of giving them, like, the guy.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So
the thing that I noticed was the followers thing. Like, you can't. I don't know if you can fake that. I don't know how you can fake 18,000 followers. So I actually saw somebody like saying on Twitter, like, how's that possible? So my flimsy explanation is that she has always had that. I don't know. She's always had that, and maybe it comes in useful during certain, like, cons. Like, I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Kinda. Sure. Except that if she's, like, running from the law, that's, like, the opposite of what you'd want to do.
Yeah. It makes more sense than, like, she just, like, made this all up.
Yeah. Because I don't know. I'm choosy with my followers on Instagram, so
I think she had like 17,000 or something followers, and I'm like laughing, and you know, like I was like, Tandy could do it because Tandy would be the one who would be able to do it, but I like that thought that like this is something that she has as like one of her cons, and she has it all prepared because she's an organized con artist.
Right.
I like that about her, but you know, she gets picked to do the job because she knows the right things to say. So, you know, the woman hires her, and she asks if there's anything going on tonight. Well, of course, the Roxanne Gala is going on. So, you know, Tandy's scored her wristband. She's got her ticket into the party. Then we pan to a scene.
Quickly, somebody just suggested that she might have hacked into someone else's account. I don't know. She's pretty smart, and we know she's good with technology, so that could be something.
That's true. Yeah, when the lady was like, "Let me see your phone right away" to her, and she was just like, "Yeah, sure. Here's my phone." You know, I didn't know what was going on there, but she really worked that out for herself. So even if she did hack into somebody else's account and then just posted a couple of pictures of herself, she worked that out somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not so good. Her acting here was like,
It's amazing.
what you were saying, like, she was playing somebody's like kind of naive or whatever, like whatever you'd think of someone with 18,000 Instagram followers, like that stereotype, like kind of naive, and she's like, the lady was asking if she had any addictions, and she's like, is ice cream an addiction?
Yeah,
and it's like,
and you're like, yes, we know you have drug problems, Tandy, but she played that off so well. Tandy was kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, she was fantastic in that scene. That was a good like comedic relief because you see Tandy and again you can see the confidence in her because she knows what she's doing. She has a goal in mind and she knows she can control her powers, so she has that confidence. On the other hand, you see Ty kind of trying to build this confidence. So he's saying, I don't really know what's going on, but I'm going to move forward. I'm going to make this work for myself, and this is what I want. So we move to this scene where he's in Father Delgado's office. And I was sad that he was in the office, but
again.
Delgado wasn't there again. I really want to see more scenes with him coming up on the next couple episodes. But he asked Evita to meet him there, and he finally gives her his jacket. So she's kind of like, I don't want you to feel like you have to give this to me. And then he kind of plays it, like, oh, well, if you don't want it. And so they have like a cute little exchange. But she tells him, I pay attention to you. And that line really struck me because I feel like I really like Evita, but I feel like she's sneaky and there's a lot of stuff we don't know about her.
I know, right? Like, and it sucks because the writing and the performance, like, it's so good. Like, I can really see a lot of people, or I've been seeing a lot of people like saying, "Oh, they're so cute," like, let's just go with them instead of Cloak and Dagger. And I can't say anything because the way they're handling that young romance, and with the character of Evita, it's just so cute and well written. It's not too cheesy or anything.
Right. I mean, it's like if Ty could have a normal life, then that would be a cute relationship for him, and it would be like a good match. But that Ty is more than just a normal person, and that he's never going to be able to have a quote unquote normal life. So when she says stuff like that to him, I don't know, maybe it was the way she said it, like. She could have said something else. She could have said, like, I understand you. She could have said that, but she said, I pay attention to you. And that, like, gave me this, like, stalker kind of feeling. And you know that her aunt knows more about him. So there has to be something that Evita knows, too.
Plus, like, the last time they were in Father Delgado's office, remember when he was praying to Billy, you could, if you're inclined, you could think that way, like she's kind of stalking him. She just kind of conveniently walks in. So it's up to you. We don't know the character. We can't commit fully to the character. We don't know if she's like innocent of everything, or if she knows everything that's going on. And it's really good writing because it keeps her more interesting.
Yeah, for sure. She's not just a one-note character like, oh, I'm just going to be background Ty's girlfriend. There's definitely something going on with her. And I like her, but I just want I want to know what it is. And, people are saying, like, I think Ty and Tandy are going to end up together. And, do you think this is going to happen? And I just think that it's too early still to want to throw them together. I think that they need to have, Ty needs to go through this Evita relationship, whatever it ends up being. And Tandy needed to have that connection before anything more happens with them. We still have lots of time because I'm confident that we're going to get a season 2 to really explore their characters more. So we still have plenty of time to explore a Ty and Tandy relationship. I mean, I think at this point they can like stand each other being in the same room. So they don't. Tandy has kind of like a thing with him where she's like, why are you always showing up at the worst times? And, you know, they know that there's something going on there and that they have a deeper connection, but they're not really ready to explore exactly what that is on a personal level yet.
Yeah, they both have their own serious problems to deal with first.
Yes, absolutely. So then we pan off to Ty's playing his game, and Tandy goes to the gala. So that's where we are halfway through the episode. You know, they're set up that Ty's in this big championship game, and Tandy gets to go into the gala. We'll be going from there. So then we're seeing Ty playing the game, and he's noticing that the referee is not treating the other team fairly. And he's kind of like, what's going on? So the referee is like calling penalty on one of the players, and there was no penalty. And Ty's confused, but he takes the shot and he makes it. So, you know, that's when you get a glimpse of that maybe this game isn't running fairly. So he sees that there. Then we go off to another great scene with Detective O'Reilly, and she's with Liam. So she grabbed him. Poor Liam is still in jail. Not really super sure what they're holding him on. Probably a million things since he is a career criminal. But she's trying to find out about the high quality coke. She's trying to find out where it came from. So she's kind of digging with Liam, and he's not wanting to tell her anything, but, you know, she knows that he knows where stuff is coming from, so he ends up giving her the information. But during that scene, I just felt bad for him again, because it's like Tandy was using Liam, and now, in a way, Ty is using Liam through Detective O'Reilly to get to Detective Connors. So everybody's just using Liam, and he's stuck in jail eating chili spaghetti.
Were you like happy or not happy, but did you get that sense of, ooh, it's Liam, because it's been a while and people have been actually asking for him?
Yeah, like I wondered where he was, if he was still in jail or what was going on with him. But, you know, he's still there, so good to know that, you know, they brought him back. I don't know if he'll be in another episode again, but I just felt bad for him, because now everybody's using Liam, and, well, what are you gonna do?
Well, poor Liam.
I know, poor Liam, that's all we can really say.
Yeah, and like, even, like, Detective O'Reilly picked up on it. Like, she said, like, Tandy really did a number on you, because the way he was speaking, like, he's so bitter, you can tell, he's so affected, which makes sense, because we know that he's absolutely in love, or is absolutely in love with Tandy, and what she did to him, like, even though he's like a con man, a criminal, he can't hide that. I guess I feel like everybody in the prison knows what happened to him. And I think he's going free, right? Like the way Detective O'Reilly said it, like, I can offer you something in exchange for this information.
Oh, maybe out then.
What else? Yeah, so I think we'll be seeing him, I don't know, like, he's like a wild card. How angry is he at Tandy?
Yeah.
Or, you know, like, I expect him to get some kind of revenge, or... Yeah, but he still lives there, so we don't know.
Yeah, so, I mean, if that set him up of getting out of jail and then having another scene with him and Tandy in the future, then that'll be interesting to see. But I hope it, you know, poor Liam. I guess that's all I can say about it now.
That's his new name. That's his complete name. Yeah, poor Liam.
Poor Liam. So then we're going to Tandy is at the gala, and we're kind of panning back and forth between Tandy being at the gala and looking for people to, you know, looking for those Roxxon employees that she's there looking for. And Ty is, you know, he got touched by the ref, and he's seeing the ref's fears, and then all of a sudden the basketball that Ty was holding drops down in front of Tandy at the gala. So that was an odd moment to see that, like, Ty had that teleportation ability to teleport just the basketball in front of her. And, you know, she really just wanted to go up to this guy and just kind of touch him, because she wanted to use the power to see his hopes. And, you know, she was like, what is happening? And I don't know if she even knew in that moment, like, where that basketball came from, or put two and two together. But it was definitely odd. So she missed out on that moment. But then she is able to go through the gala, and she's able to find these businessmen, and she's able to touch them and see their hope. And it was like such a strange montage of like, you know, everybody has the same person at the center of their montage, and we find out later who that is. But it's basically like, you know, what would you do to your boss? And they're putting him, you know, it's all in these weird situations. So kind of odd that she can see all this stuff. Very useful, but yeah, the whole scene, like, you know, they must like really hate him, this guy. So she's going through and she's touching these guys, and some of them aren't even noticing really that she's touching them, and I thought that was odd because she's like clearly doing it. But she gets through and
touched that like, one guy in the ear.
Yes. And she's super proud of like being able to use her power, and she's like, I got this, I know who I'm going for. And the music is really cool in that scene, and then all of a sudden there was like a record scratch, and then you see Ty is there. So, you know, poor Ty is like halftime of his basketball game, and he's, you know, through Tandy trying to use her powers, he's trying to figure out what the heck is going on with him, and then all of a sudden they end up in the same place. And like, if I was Ty, I would have been pissed in that moment, because he was in the middle of his championship basketball game. Like, thank God it was halftime, so he wasn't like you know, in mid shot or anything. But he's just like cool about it, you know. Tandy's like, what the hell are you doing here? And he's like, I don't know. You brought me here. You're using your powers. And he tells her, you and I are connected. And I guess I'm still confused over what exactly the connection is. But it's clear that when either one of them is using their powers, it does affect the other person.
Yes. And that is something that is unique to the show. In the comic books, there's, as far as I know, that's not a thing. And it makes it so much more interesting, right? Like, on top of the fact that they can't touch, like there's that complication for now. There's also the fact that when one is using it, and like we get the sense from the whole episode that Tandy, like, she doesn't care. She's just going. She's got the control, and she's just bam, 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 use power, hoppy touchy.
Right.
And now she's getting and we're seeing, okay, so there are consequences to what you're doing. For now, at least, like, we don't know what's going to happen later on if they have more control over the powers. But it's an interesting limitation to the power if it sticks, because it's kind of OP, you know, like you just touch someone and you figure out like the way they're using it. Like I think Tandy can even choose which, and she made like a comparison to a library. She can choose which memories, because she's obviously focusing on their hopes relating to their careers or to their boss. So she has that level of control. And regardless of hope, if it's Tandy's hopes or Tyrone's fears, it's like the auntie side, it's the same thing. You can see the truth of someone, and that is not that's just not fair for a TV series, because you'll always have to ask, oh, why didn't you just touch him? Like in the future, I mean, like, why didn't you just touch him and figure out the villain and everything? So it's a good limitation to have, like, their powers go crazy when someone's using that ability. So sorry, just the scene with, like, one of my big gripes for the episode, I think, is that that basketball that nobody was freaked out when at the game.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, you noticed that too. Like, it just disappeared, and you have like an audience of, I don't know how many people, 50 people, 100 people, all the players, the referees, and the ball is gone. And what happened? And nobody, I don't know. So
they kind of just were like, okay, it's halftime then.
I don't know what you could have done for that. Like, if you could have written it in another way, or it's not like a big deal, but it's like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. But it was funny how that, like, and I think their main point was really to show that, like, when Tandy was kind of going crazy rapid fire using her powers, that it's really affecting Ty, and to see that happen, and then all of a sudden he ends up there. And I was, you know, it was just funny how she's like so annoyed and he's just so calm, like, it's fine, like, just get me back to where I was. I kind of need to go back to my game. And
Yeah.
in that moment when she sees him, she's looking at a poster and she realizes who the guy is in all of the hopes. That, she realizes the head of Roxxon that she needs to really find is Peter Scarborough. So she knows, she's like, I remember this guy. He came into my house when I was 9 and he took all my dad's stuff and he took all of our money, and I'll never forget his face again. So she knows, this is the guy who I need to go after. And then, Ty's
Right.
standing there like, fantastic for you, but can you please get me back to my game? And she's telling him, why don't you try that nearly dying thing again? And he's like, yeah, no, that's not really for me. So then she kind of just rushes at him and pushes him off the balcony, and he falls into that fountain. And that was not what I thought was going to happen when we saw, like, the bit of this scene in one of the trailers before the series started.
Yeah.
Not what I thought was going to happen, but it was pretty funny how she did that. And I was like, oh, it would be so embarrassing if he really was still in the fountain. But he wasn't. He was taken back. He was taken back just in time for the second half of his game to start. So that worked out for Ty. And then again, he wasn't even, like, agitated by that. He was just, he got pushed over the balcony, fell into the fountain, and then all of a sudden he's in the locker room and he's like, okay, cool, I'm back. He wasn't, like, fazed by the fact that she, like, pushed him over a balcony.
Yeah, I don't know if it's him not being fazed, but he's definitely not agitated. I think he's just like, well, yeah, you're right. No, you're right. He's a little bit. There's a confusion there, but at the same time, he's used to teleporting. I think so. That's why he can handle it. Like something so weird as being on a bench, dripping with water.
I just hope that the next time we meet,
yeah,
he brings that up, and he's like, "Thanks for shoving me off a balcony."
I know, and again, why didn't anybody see the kid falling down to the fountain, and then disappearing? So again, I don't know about that. I feel like, but again, I don't know what they could have done because it was what needed to happen. But just thinking of, like, aren't there security? I was like, aren't there security cameras here? That's kind of a weird, like, I don't know, plot hole for me. But again, we're getting confirmation of how the powers work, like being agitated, or I don't know, like being under duress, or if your life is threatened, that's when they kick in. So at least we're getting that answered or confirmed.
Right. So we have that, and it ties back where he's supposed to be, and Tandy's still at the gala, and she has her answer of, Peter Scarborough is the guy I have to go after. And before Tandy leaves the gala, we have an important scene with Ally Mackey's character, and it's Mina Hess. We don't know in the moment that she's Mina Hess, but Tandy kind of has this interaction with her, thinking that she's this girl who's drunk and she's trying to give her advice of how to feel better. And she's telling her, I'm not drunk, I'm just nervous, I have to go give a speech. And we're like, okay, so we're left with that for now. But really excited to see her character in the show. So we've got that introduction in there. Then we have another scene with Detective O'Reilly, and an important scene where she finds the whatever lead Liam gave her. She found one of the dealers, the higher level coke dealers. Yeah. And she stops her and finds out that information of where the coke is coming from. And the woman tells her that she doesn't know, who's really, somebody comes and gives her the product, and that's the only person she has any dealings with. Whoever, she says, the magic man who pulls the strings, whoever that is, she doesn't know who it is. So Detective Riley is like, okay, whatever, I'm going to take this product, and then we're going to go from there. So Liam was able to at least deliver on that information that he was able to give. So we have that scene, and that comes into importance later. But back with Candy, we're back at the church. So she had left the gala, and she's looking up Peter Scarborough, and she's looking through her paperwork and she sees that he's signed off on like every document. So he is definitely a really important person. So we get that, and as you alluded to earlier, she brings that picture of him up on her tablet, and you get that completed picture of this guy is connected to all these things.
Yeah, that's her next step.
Yes. So we know she knows that she needs to go after Peter Scarborough. Then back at the game, we see Ty, and he starts. So, he's thinking, Tandy used her power to see all these hopes, and he kind of starts using his power to see all the fears of the players from the other team, from Hancock, and he's seeing like these terrible things that these kids have been put through, and that their worst fears, like the one kid getting beat up by his dad, that they're all just seem to be from really bad situations, and then with the ref treating them so poorly, so it gets down to that like buzzer breaker shot, and it's win or lose, and it's all on Ty, and that's when his mom's comment of you got the best jump shot comes in. So it's like everybody's thinking he's got this, he's going to make this shot, and he shoots and he misses. And he sees, right before he shoots, he sees this image of Billy, like kind of comforting him, and you get that sense that he knows that these kids on the other team don't have any of that. And he shoots and misses, and then everybody's disappointed, but he has this kind of like satisfied smile on his face, like he knows he did the right thing. He knows that he let them have that championship win because they needed it more than Saint Sebastian needed it.
Right. So exactly, that's what how I read it. But my only thought there was, and I don't know if I'm being just a jerk, but like, of course you're seeing their fears because they're touching you, but I bet your teammates have problems too, and and well, you guys lost, so whatever. If I don't know what they have, if they have like parents who beat them or whatever,
right?
Like that's gonna happen to those guys, and we don't have too much sympathy for them for what they did to him earlier, but still, it's like, of course you saw their side, and we feel for them, but okay, everyone has problems. But another thought I had, because I keep flashing back to the poll you made for a few weeks ago about whose powers you'd rather have.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, whenever you said something like Cloak's fear, you'd rather have see people's hopes and their fears, and I was like, yeah, I agree. Because we always saw beautiful hopes, being united to your father and stuff. Yeah. In this episode, earlier on, Tandy was going through the Roxxon executives, and I'm like, ooh, okay, so maybe hopes aren't always nice to see.
Yeah, maybe
we saw
they're disturbing sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I bet Kat's like rethinking her now, but then we see Tyrone here. We're seeing the kids' fears, and like, nope, fears are worse. The one guy was in a war.
Because then you like move to the next scene where Tandy goes to Peter Scarborough's house, and she like is in the guise of, oh, I got a flat tire, can I use your phone? And he's like, no, I'll just come help you. So that was odd to me that he came out and changed her tire in his bathrobe. But and at the same time, I was thinking like, I hope she has a car with a flat tire for this situation, and she happened to have one.
An actual car, yeah. Right.
So you're seeing like this guy's a scumbag, but he's gonna help her change her tire. Like maybe he's okay. So she's you got this cool image of he's down on the ground changing her tire, and she's standing behind him, and that they pan down and you see that light, and she's got that dagger in her hand, and she's like ready to like stab him with it. And then she's like, no, I'm not gonna do that, and she touches him instead. And then you see his messed up hope of him cleaning in the water, like cleaning the garbage, and like there's dead Roxxon workers all around him, and he's just picking money out of anything he can, and then making sure that everybody's dead. But in that scene, Tandy pulls a helmet out of the water, and you can see on the name on the helmet said Ivan Hess, and you're like, oh, Ivan Hess, his daughter is Mina Hess. So what's going on with all that with Peter Scarborough, Ivan Hess, and now Mina Hess. So we have that, like, out of that crazy hope that Peter Scarborough had, she did pull another name. So she went and she did do some research on who Ivan Hess is. But they did intersperse that scene with Ty being back at home and Evita happens to be in his room, and they have a scene together where he's saying to her, like, are you sure you still want to wear my jacket? We lost the game. And she says to him, I know why you did it. She said, I know what you did and I know who you are. And I'm like, yeah, you know who he is because your aunt knows who he is, and there's definitely more going on here, and we need to know what Evita knows. Bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. And again, going back to what you picked up on, that you can get double meanings from stuff that she's saying.
Yeah.
Because when I saw it the first time, I'm like, oh, she's talking about, because she was like, what you did with the ref, what you did with the I was like, oh, she's talking about him throwing the game away.
Yeah.
Like that, that's her paying attention to. But then you're like, oh yeah, but no, her aunt knows stuff, so she might know stuff, so she might be talking about the shenanigans that were going on with his powers during the game.
Right.
So you can see it both ways, and you can, and again, we don't know what she is yet. She's a bit of a mystery. And it's so interesting, and that leads us to Ty losing his shirt again.
Yep, exactly. So they have that
5 out of 5
night together. Yep, 5 out of 5 episodes. Ty loses his shirt. Fact. So they have their night together, and then we're going over to a scene where Detective O'Reilly is in like a back evidence room, actually using the coke that she took from the coke dealer. And at first I was like, her, and I was like, oh, does she really have a problem? But then I was like, no, she knew that Detective O'Connors was going to come in the room. She's just trying to get closer to him. So, he finds her and he's like, oh, you've got the good stuff. And he's like, we should hang out more often. And she says like, well, if you can keep up with me. And at that point, like, I don't know if he's like giving off the illusion that he trusts her a little more, if he's like, oh, I see that you're not all on level, I like hanging out with you, or if like he knows where that, because he's obviously done his product before, so he's probably like, where the hell did she get this? So it leaves you kind of questioning, like, does she have him under her thumb now? Is she like on her side, or is this opening up questions for him, or both?
Okay, that's actually interesting. First of all, just seeing that, like this is still a Marvel show,
right.
and it's when I saw that, I was like, and this is on top of all the things all the scenes that they've been showing this episode, and I'm like, oh wow, Rocket Raccoon doesn't do that.
Right.
The Ant-Man's not going to be doing that in the movie. Even in the Netflix shows, I'm not sure if they ever showed, I could be not remembering properly, but even in the Netflix shows, which are darker, I don't know if they ever went there, showing a character, supposedly a cop, like a good cop, supposedly, doing a line. So that was shocking. And
yeah.
And what you said about Tandy, like earlier when she was with Mr. Scarborough, with Peter Scarborough, like hopefully she had the car to complete her con. My thought here was like, do you really have to be doing the coke, or can't you like fake that and wait for him to come in?
Yeah, right.
And I guess she's into it, because obviously this is not her first time doing stuff like this.
No, so
and again we're getting
wonder.
Yeah, we're getting shades. She wasn't in. Well, I don't know if she was in Vice when she was in New York. So again, so far there are no angels in this show. Even somebody like Detective O'Reilly, who we mostly like, there's something there. And and this whole this whole thing she's doing, she's like I believe she got the idea or the grain of the idea from the dealer that she got the drugs off of, because the dealer was like, she was like, don't you all have loose morals and stuff?
Yeah.
And you can see in her head, she's like, ding, okay, I know, I'll figure out how to do this. I like what you're saying, like maybe because I thought that how I read it was Detective Connors like really like just trust her, knowing that she catching her doing something like that, but maybe like he's onto her, so we'll see. And interesting.
Yeah, so we have that scene, so it's like kind of like you're left with, does he know more than he's letting on with her? Is he or is he trusting her more? Is he trusting her less?
Yeah.
But then we pan to Ty is in his room, and Evita spent the night, obviously, and then they leave, and he grabs his shirt and he leans back, and then all of a sudden he's not in his bed anymore, but he's back in that warehouse where Wayne works. And he's kind of like, okay, but he seems used to being teleported into crazy places now, so he's kind of just looking around to figure out why he's there. And then you see Detective Connors talking to Wayne, and you hear their conversation about how Wayne is angry because his dealers were never supposed to be touched, basically, and he's wondering, why this cop that Connors is supposed to have control over the cops. He's like, why is this cop getting involved? This is not supposed to be how it goes. We're just supposed to get the product and then go from there, and we're supposed to have this level of protection. And then Connors kind of cuts back. It's like, it's not my cop's fault. It's just a little thing. I've got it taken care of. And he's yelling at him and saying that they're partners. And that really caught Billy, because then obviously that's where Wayne is making his money. That's how he's getting his fancy expensive watch. And to see like, okay, I can't really trust anybody because even this guy who was friends with my brother, who I thought would be on my side, is working with Detective Connors. And then the ultimate bomb is dropped by Wayne, where he is saying that he knows that Detective Connors shot Billy. So Ty gets to overhear that. Ty now knows that he's not the only one who knows that Detective Connors shot Billy. So there's more going on here. So that's another situation where his powers kind of just put him in the right place at the right time, where he got to overhear that conversation.
Yeah. How do you think, like, how would Wayne even know that? Like, because they covered that up, right? And I mean, at the time, he's just some dude. And do you figure, like, he'd be the last person that people should tell?
Right.
So maybe something happened, like, we'll see the order of things. Like, maybe he became a powerful criminal figure, and that's how he found out. So how do you think, like, isn't that weird?
It is, and I thought, maybe we'll find out more about this later, but like maybe he was there, maybe he saw it happen, and he was in the background, and that's later. Or maybe Detective Connors like, bragged about it at some point and was like, "I'll kill you like I kill your friend" or something like that to try to get power over him. There's a bunch of different ways that he could have known, but I'm thinking that we'll find out in maybe the next episode or the episode after that of how that connection is there. Because that is moving, we got Ty's plotline move forward as well as Tandy's plotline moving forward. And then again, enhancing Tandy's plotline even more, she is going to, the last scene we see is she's watching this taping of Mina Hess. Mina Hess is a scientist who works for Roxxon, and she's talking about her dad, Ivan Hess, and how she owes everything to Roxxon, and Tandy's in the background watching, and you're like, okay, there's definitely something going on here where Mina Hess and Tandy are going to have, I feel like they're going to have it out at some point. They're going to be, she knows more about what happened 8 years ago, and Tandy needs to find that information out.
Yeah, and again, Tandy showing her teleporting powers. She can just end up, wherever. She can just sneak in.
Just walking into a commercial show, fine.
And this is the weird one for me because we I guess for me, compared to the previous cliffhangers, this one felt kind of flat, but only because as people who are really into Cloak and Dagger or the TV show, like we know the twist, I guess, that's coming. Like, if you follow the news about the show, we know the character Mina Hess. We know that her dad is Rock's an employee too. So that's the only thing for me, and I'm sure for other people, like that ending had more impact. But for me, it was like, okay. I do love Ali's. I love her face. Like she has like a naughty face, like a mischievous face, even when she's doing something supposedly serious, like this commercial. It's so playful.
There's definitely more that she knows, and she lost her dad too, just like Tandy did. But why is she working for Roxanne? There's something more going on there, and that was a good place to leave this episode. I think we've enhanced these plot lines and forwarded them to the point where now we clearly know what direction they both have to back in now. Alright, so that was it for our recap review of the 5th episode. I can't even remember what it was called again. Let me skip back to my notes here. Princeton Offense. So again, glad to see the plot moving forward for both of our main characters, and looking forward to what we have coming up in the second half of the season. Any final thoughts on episode 5, Butch?
You're talking about the title, Princeton. Do you know what the Princeton offense is?
I don't. Should have looked it up.
All right, so I'm not too well versed in it, but I've heard of it. It is a type of a system of offense in basketball, actually, and I've heard of it before. I did not know the specifics. I looked it up before the show, and it's a kind of sort of related to the triangle offense, famously used by the Chicago Bulls. And what it implies is a lot of motion and more control, which is interesting. So I think that's probably why. I mean, more control given to the players. So I think that's why that was chosen, because it's a kind of an odd topic, but that's why it was chosen for this episode. So we're seeing more control. The characters are gaining more control over their powers. They're gaining more control over, I don't know, their destiny or their missions in what they have to do. And again, we're seeing stuff happen, and we have, you said it perfectly, it sets up the rest of the season. Hopefully from here on we get action scenes. Which I'm all fine with the characterization stuff, but we can do some superheroing won't hurt.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Agree. Good catch on that title. You get like 3 points for that. So I think you're ahead of your board.
See what you did.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Okay, moving on to our social media segment for the week. We had some great interaction with Twitter. I was able to live tweet last night, so we got some new followers. So welcome to everybody who's a new follower, and welcome again to our old friends as well. Thank you guys for continuing to follow us and to support us as we go through this Cloak and Dagger journey together. We did have some comments from some of our listeners as to what they thought about this episode this week. So from our friend Tony, who is at WaltGator93, he stated that he thinks that Liam was probably late and did not get his spaghetti chili, which I probably thought the same thing, because that's, going to be a running thing for poor Liam. And he stated as well that he was confused on why their powers are connected and how that all works, but he was glad to see the plot advance. So yeah, we are, looking forward to finding out more about how exactly that connection and their powers works too. So, we've got 4 remaining episodes to explore that. So definitely looking forward to seeing more on that front there. And then we had another comment from a friend of the show, Evan, who is at EvanRoberts16, and he said that he hates Connors, loves Billy, and wants to help out Liam. And I think that's a really good way to sum up the episode. There was a lot of love for Billy in this episode, and those were some really great scenes. But yeah, we were saying that when we started out in even our very first episode of the podcast, where we were looking over characters that we all hated, Detective Connors, and Abel was on that show with us, and he was just like, I don't like this guy. And I thought maybe at this point I would maybe like him a little more with some more, background into his character, but I don't like him even more than when I didn't know anything about him. So we'll see how that goes throughout the season. I don't know if anything good can come of him. Alrighty, I'm jumping.
Oh no, I just want to say that I was holding up hope for Detective Connors for a while. I jumped off that island maybe last episode. He seems to be a total sleazeball, so yeah.
For sure, I agree. I just can't. There's nothing about his character that makes me want to get behind him for any reason. Like, he's a crooked cop. He's he killed Billy, first of all, and we all love Billy. So
yes.
I don't know. He doesn't have any redeeming qualities to me, so maybe that'll change. Who knows?
He's a coward.
Yeah, he is a coward. Yeah, like, he's not like a villain where you're like, oh, he's a cool villain. Like, he is a coward. And we talked about that before, that nobody likes that in a villain. So, maybe he'll be like that kind of villain, and Roxanne will be like, I don't want to say like the cool villain, but will be the villain who's like, who just doesn't care. And Detective Connors is gonna be Detective Connors is like the villain who's still kind of running away from stuff. So I don't know, we'll see from there. But we did have another poll this week, so I wanted to look at our poll results, and I've got that pulled up here for me to look at. So this was our round 1 supporting characters poll. So I'm going to do another poll with the family member supporting characters. But I wanted to throw these in here to see who you guys wanted to see more of. And I was surprised with the results. This was not how I thought this poll was going to go. So our winner for the poll at 48% was Detective O'Reilly. Second, with 33% of the votes, was Father Delgado, and that's who I personally voted for. We've barely seen anything about Father Delgado, so looking forward to more of him. In third place was Detective Connors, and then in fourth place, I was so not expecting this, with only 6% of the vote, was Evita.
Why do you think? Well, I agree. Like, it's surprising, but why do you think that's how people voted?
I don't know. I thought people would want to know more about Evita, but maybe because she's getting more screen time than the other characters, that people are happy with what we know so far.
Absolutely, yeah.
That could be. I want to know about. I want to know more about Father Delgado.
Yeah, because
he hasn't had the screen time.
Exactly. Because we haven't seen him.
Yeah, and I think that in
this
episode, this was the most screen time that we've seen from Detective O'Reilly. So we did get a good look, for sure, into her character.
Right. And I think people know what's gonna, like, who she is in the comic book, so maybe that might be fueling at some of it. I think Emma is pretty popular from her previous work, so there's that. As opposed to Jamie and Noelle, who aren't, I think anyway, aren't as popular, or don't have her level of fame.
Yeah.
But man, how can Father Delgado not win this? I mean, he's been gone for 2 episodes. His freaking room has more screen time on the show.
I know, his room does have more screen time, and we were left on like an interesting point in his character too, with that scene in the liquor store. So,
what is that?
About this guy.
I'm so confused. Like, it could end up meaning nothing. Right. Father Delgado doesn't like bread, or he changed his mind.
Yeah.
But because they dragged it out, I'm like, what is that bread? What's the significance of the bread?
I mean, it has to be something. It has to mean something. I don't know. But I'm just scrolling through the comments, and Tony at Walter Gator 93 wants to see more of Father Delgado. He says he seems shady, and that he needs way more scenes with Ty. And I agree. So I really like him, but there is a shady side to him. There's definitely stuff that we don't know about him. And let's look through here too. So Jack Brewer at JackBER918-63529 says he wants to hear more about Connors because he thinks Roxxon is going to mutate him into the lizard, and instead of being Spider-Man's foe, he's going to be a foe of Cloak and Dagger. What do you think about that, Butch?
Well, when I was looking through the cast before the first episode, like Detective Connors, so the first thing that comes to mind, like Connors, okay. And the lizard was in the what's his name? The Amazing Spider-Man movies, the first one with what's his face, with Social Network guy. But he has obviously they've rebooted that with the recent Homecoming movie, so he can be used. There's some weird stuff with wildlife going on in the show. Like we haven't talked about it, but in the next episode, from the previews, Mina and Tandy are like in like some pond looking around, and if you remember from this episode, Mina, like we find out her name because she was name dropped in like an article where she discovered some kind of sea life, something like that. So there's like a biological aspect that might involve the lizard. I think it's a stretch, but it'll be fun, and I can see he'd be a good one-off villain. Like there's not much depth to the character. He's just a wild animal. So he could be a villain, and you beat him, he goes away, and it's it works for a season 1 villain maybe.
Okay.
It'll be fun. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. We had another comment from Hexy at Hecto, and they said Father Delgado seems like someone Ty trusts and will lead him in the right direction without being heavily biased on either side. He advises and lets Ty decide for himself. And he has tattoos. I didn't notice that. Did you?
Oh, that tattoos?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in the very, very first scene. Kind of awkward because you're introduced to the character and he's a priest and he's with a teenager and he's dressing up. But the showrunner did mention, Joe Pokaski did mention, like the actor Jamie has tattoos, and they're like, oh, that's kind of perfect for what we want to do with the character.
All right.
Sort of show that he's not a typical priest, so let's shoot that. So that was really interesting.
Yes, definitely want to see more Father Delgado. And Jason at the Band Monk says Father Delgado because I want to see him sell his soul to Mr. Jip. I don't get that reference, but you're going to have to explain that to me. Most heartbreaking thing I read as a kid.
I don't want to spoil it, but that's that's his arc. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, all right. Well,
but yeah, something happens in the comics. Okay. Yeah, all right.
All right.
It is heartbreaking.
Okay. Oh, something hard. I don't want anything bad to happen to Father Delgado. Even though, like, I really like him, even though he probably is a little shady. But I feel like he really does want to help Ty. I don't know, maybe Ty will bring him in more now that he is left sort of thinking that maybe Detective O'Reilly is not necessarily going to help him because he doesn't know, like, what she's doing right now. So maybe he'll go to Father Delgado and say, you know, what do you think I should do in this situation? Like, and kind of spill the beans of everything that's been going on.
Yeah, I'm excited for Tandy to meet Father Delgado because if you remember from I mentioned before from the comics, he kind of has a crush on Dagger, so I want to see how much of that they keep. Yeah, because it'd be perfect to play that off if they want to make him kind of shady, like it would be, and they're not shy about what we saw with Peter Scarborough. Like they're not shy with giving that kind of that vibe, that creepy vibe when people are confronted with a beautiful person like Tandy.
Yeah, for sure. They're not afraid to go there in the show. So we'll, definitely interesting to see what happens.
Oh my god.
So we have
this episode.
I know there was some some definitely
Explicit
bordering
stuff.
on explicit scenes going on in this episode. So, I told you Freeform's not afraid to go there in those sorts of situations. So,
Yeah.
getting a little
Not
more
ABC
adult
Family
there.
for sure.
Right. So we have 4 episodes left, and we have a clear villain defined for both of our heroes, and hopefully we'll look forward to seeing Ty get more control over his powers in the coming episodes. But again, thank you guys so much for following along with us and for listening. If you ever want to leave us a review, please feel free to do so on any one of our media outlets. We are available wherever you can listen to podcasts, so not just on YouTube, but you can listen to our audio-only versions on iTunes, Stitcher, Castbox, and I think I'm missing one and I can't think of the name of it. But we are available on those audio outlets, and be sure to check out our sister podcasts as well. We have the Shadowhunters podcast, the Siren podcast, the Riders Block podcast, and coming out soon, Abel and I are doing a podcast about Funko Collection called What the Funko Podcast. So lots of different options for our network here. We've also joined a kind of a media coalition on Twitter. It's called The Collective. So getting kind of comic book type shows and outlets together to promote each other. So just giving a shout out to our friends in The Collective. Thank you as always for your support and your continued support. Any last words for this week, Butch?
Again, for the collective, just look for hashtag The Collective on Twitter. There are so many comic book podcasts. I was really surprised. If you're into something as specific as Moon Knight, there's a podcast for you. If you're into the Inhumans, there's a podcast for you. Thank you for supporting our Cloak and Dagger, little Cloak and Dagger show here. Our audience is growing. We only have a few more episodes left, but I understand we're going to keep going with our own off-season episodes. I have an Instagram. If you dig what I do with Cloak and Dagger cover images, I post work in progress shots there on Instagram at Butch Mapa, and I have a Facebook Cloak and Dagger group. It's mostly just Cloak and Dagger is more than the show. There are comics, there are toys. If you want to see more about that, that's on Facebook.com/Marvel Cloak Dagger. And one last thing, I keep forgetting this. Just Google. So one of the creators of Cloak and Dagger, Bill Mantlo, he has some health problems, and some of his fans they're running like a promo for him to raise funds for his healthcare. Just Google hashtag RomPals on Facebook, and that'll lead you to some giveaway stuff that they're doing. And if you want to help out the guy who created this thing that we love. So
Yes.
yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that information, Butch. And please feel free to follow us on Twitter or any of our social media outlets. They are listed in the show notes. Again, thank you for your continued support, and we will see you guys again next week. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Make sure you check out the show's description down below so you can follow us on social media. Talk to you next time.